Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Chanel in the City. I am your host, Chanel Omari, and we have a special guest here with us today. She is one of my favorite comedians. She's an Emmy Award-winning comic. She's a writer and actress, as well as the host of the hot podcast, Kill Me Now, and author of the book, Yes, I Can Say That. When they come for the comedians, we are all in trouble. Please welcome my guest, Judy Gold.
Hi!
Kill Me Now. Why the title Kill Me Now?
Because, all right, so I think it was 2015. It's 2014-15. They CBS, actually it started at CBS. They don't have a podcasting network anymore, but someone over there said, would you be, interested in doing a podcast? And I was like, yes. But I, like everything I do, I don't want it to be like everyone else's. And then I thought, what is something that is, an identifier of me, and that is that everything gets on my fucking nerves. Like I get annoyed over the stupidest shit. And I realized that I say kill me now about 1,000 times a day. Like, oh my God, kill me now. So I figured I would talk about the things that piss people off, because it's something people don't really talk about. Like you get celebrities, they do shows. No one ever's like, what makes you fucking crazy, angry? And, that's what I did. So
That's
it's Kill Me
amazing,
Now.
too. Also, you have, the comedian background, which I feel like it gives you the balls, the cojones to also say things that people are thinking, right? That don't necessarily want to say.
Yeah, I think that, as Joan Rivers said, she said that she says everything everyone's thinking, but too afraid to say, which I also think I do. And I think that, comedy is truth. I mean, it is speaking truth to power. And that's why some people feel so threatened by it. I gotta say, I feel more comfortable talking into a microphone, and I will say more when I have a microphone than I will, with Elisa, my lover, like I'll be thinking shit, and then I won't, then the people leave and I'm like, oh my God, can you fucking believe, but normally if I was on stage, I would just say it right there. But yeah, comedians see the world through a different lens. We see, where's the joke? And a joke is a surprise, which is why it always catches people off guard. And it's laughter's a release of tension. And yeah, only the truth is funny. And that's why fuckface hates comedians, wants SNL investigated, doesn't want comedians at the White House Correspondents' Dinner. That we can't have comedians hosting, award shows because people are so threatened. As much of a coping mechanism and medicine, people are always like, oh, can you call my friend? They're not feeling it. As much of that there is in humor, it is also a very powerful weapon. And when you don't have the self-effacing quality, humility, self-awareness to understand it and appreciate it, then you lash out and you're an orange piece of shit who's a fucking asshole, and I fucking cannot believe you didn't get COVID. And, but anyway.
Right, which is, here's the thing, in the book, I can't put it down. Yes, I can,
thanks.
when they come for the comedians, because I've been in comedy also. I'm a stand-up myself. I'm a struggling stand-up. Because nobody wants
We're
to
always struggling.
We're always struggling,
We're
right?
struggling.
And as a female comedian, I looked up to your career. I'm a Jewish girl from Long Island, and I know that you've written and produced for Roseanne, which was one of my favorite shows.
Rosie.
I'm sorry, Rosie,
yeah.
Which is one of my favorite shows growing up.
Yeah.
And you're not afraid to speak on topics when you get up on stage. There are a lot of comedians that think they have boundaries. A lot of people ask me, even when you're writing jokes, when I write jokes, sometimes, I grew up in a modern Orthodox family, so I'm scared.
Okay.
There's boundaries. So when you wrote this book, it was so liberating to know that I don't feel alone, and we should be able to say what we feel. And we should be, if we don't say what we feel, then
right. I mean, and also silence, as that was during the AIDS crisis, we all wore pins and shirts that said silence equals death, because it does. Because when you stop, when there's no discourse, when there's no discussion, there's no growth and there's no evolution, And speaking of being Jewish, in the 1930s, it was comedians who were first talking about what was going on in Germany, and they passed the treachery law where they were killed. If you told a joke about Hitler, you were fucking killed, you know? And I feel like...
Wow, how interesting is that?
Yeah.
If you told, you could have been killed to tell a joke.
And they were. There were a few jokes about Hitler that were going around, but no one would repeat it to anyone else. But the comedians were the ones who were like getting on stage and talking about what was going on, which is what we always do. And, you know, look, I mean, you're a Jew, I'm a Jew. I never thought this country would be in the situation it's in right now. Like, you know, my parents used to always be like, you know, that everyone hates us, you know, they all hate us. You can think they're your friends, but the minute you leave the room, they're going to call you a dirty Jew. They all hate us. We will be blamed for everything, you know. And I'm like, now you're crazy. And like, forget it. It's like, thank God my parents aren't here to see what the fuck is going. Like, I'm scared. Like, are we going to get kicked out of here too?
It's scary. It's a scary time.
Yeah.
That's why, and that's why I wanted to know, like, is the inspiration behind the book a combination of what's going on during this time, or did you have this idea, like, where you're always like ahead of the times? Did you feel this for a while?
Well, you know, I've been feeling this sort of rage against, I mean, the fact that these politicians lie and their words kill people. I mean, their speech incites violence and kills people. And comedians whose only goal when they get on stage is to make you laugh, they're getting canceled and crucified and vilified and over a fucking joke. And I just was so enraged. And so I was featured in this piece on Vice News they were doing a piece about college bookers who were telling comedians what they can and cannot say on stage. And they asked me to be the opposing voice. And I said, okay. And because of that, one of the, an editor over at HarperCollins asked me if I would write a book about free speech from the perspective of a comedian. And I was like, absolutely. So that's why I wrote the book. But it was all building up inside me because, you know, I've been doing this for so long and I've seen the progression and this idea that you can't, you know, you're going to tell me, you're 23 years old, you're going to tell me what topics are, you know, safe enough for your like they were literally saying this is to protect the students. What is this idea that you can never feel bad, like any uncomfortable feeling, like, oh, we have to be protected? No, that is not real fucking life, you know? It's ridiculous. So I have noticed in the last few years, really fearless comedians being paranoid about, I guess I can't say that. And it's just like, what are you fucking talking about? I get on stage now, and I cannot tell you the amount of, ooh, oh, and I just yell at them. Like, okay, so you can write to me at judygold.com or tweet at me about how I'm a self-hating Jew and I'm, you know, transphobic and whatever, I'm this, I'm that, you know, because people don't listen to the entire thought. They hear a word and it's like, no, I can't hear that word. And, you know, when you take the intent of the comedian out of the formula, when you take nuance and context out of there's nothing left. It's just you being upset about fucking words. And if you go to a comedy club, as I write in the book, and get upset because you got offended, that is like going to an amusement park, getting on a roller coaster, and getting upset that you got scared. I mean, come the fuck on.
You put yourself in that position, right?
Right. And also, being offended is a choice. You know, you can be offended and then move on with your life. Or you can be offended and then go on social media and try to, like, destroy the person who offended you.
Right. And that's the whole thing also you've said in the book, in some of the chapters, like, I'm not here to teach someone how to write and do a joke properly, because comedy's subjective. There is no right. Would you say there is a proper way or a non-proper way
it's just
to talk about?
No, if you're going to talk about something really, subversive or, provocative, then make it funny. That's it. I mean, there's so many, that's what I love about the book, is that, there's so much history and history of censorship and how we got to this point. But the fact that I got to use these amazing jokes as my examples, like, here's an example of blank, and it's a fucking, all these incredible, humorists and satirists and comedians, and it's just, that's what makes the book so great. It's like, here's my point I'm trying to make, and here's some examples of what I'm fucking talking about.
I love it. It's great. It's a great read. It's a great inspiration, not only for comedians, for everybody in the entertainment industry, for everybody in politics, everybody just living in this world today. I want to talk about cancel culture, because this whole cancel culture also pisses me off. I've been a victim of cancel culture when I had a reality show a long time ago, once upon a time ago. And I think in general with the comedians, fellow comedian friends of mine feel they're going to get canceled if they say something on stage that's, not cool or just crossing the boundary. How do you feel about cancel culture? We had Kathy Griffin, by our president, being blacklisted, and just a lot of comics, especially female comics, more female.
I know, isn't it interesting?
More female than male.
I hate cancel culture. I grew up, I don't know how you grew up, but I grew up in a house where if a company was anti-Semitic, we did not, and it was drilled into me.
Talk about my parents with Starbucks.
Yeah.
My mom's like, you're going to support those anti-Semites? You're getting out of the house. I'm like, where the fuck am I going to go? 35.
He's a Jew, Howard.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, go on. Sorry. But I grew up like that too. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and I think that it's your way of, free speech, voting is the ultimate free speech, and not use, like, I don't go to Chick-fil-A. I don't go to, I'm not going to go to any anti-LGBTQ or, racist, anything. I'm not going to use their products, and that's my prerogative. But this idea of, I wonder if Kathy Griffin had done that photo today, after over 200,000 people are dead from COVID, and God knows how many more from all his other fucking bullshit, kids in cages, all this shit. If she had done that photo today, would it still resonate the way it did 4 years ago? I mean, that was a failed joke. And yet, he vilified her and used her. She can't even answer her phone. She cannot answer her own phone. And yet he's out in the White House lying, calling people names, taking rights away from people, putting kids in cage. I mean, it's just fires. I mean, withdrawing money because people don't agree. I mean, it's just fucking unbelievable. But this whole idea of cancel culture, and I think a lot of it is the social media. Everyone has a platform now. Like, people who don't deserve a platform now have a platform. Like, all your crazy, people who are like, if you had a relative who was like a conspiracy theorist, you'd be like, oh, there he is again, go back in the basement, John, have a nice day. And now John can go back in the basement, get on the computer, and find 1,000 people who agree with him. So, we've empowered the wrong people. And it's really, I mean, the one good thing is we see now what this country is made of. Because I was living in a fantasy world when Obama was elected, thinking, oh, I'm so proud of my country, and oh, we're making progress. And now, but it's funny because I used this as an example the other night. So I write the book, and it gets all these 5-star reviews, and on Amazon. And in the very beginning, there was one review, and it was 1 star. So I read the review, and it brought, at that time I had hardly any. I don't have that many, but number of reviews. But it was at a point where a 1-star review would bring the whole fucking thing down.
Yeah.
So I read the review, and it was this woman who wrote, I was very disappointed because she had to go after Trump and Trump supporters, like every left wing, blah, 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 blah. Meanwhile, I go after the progressive left as much as I go after, these sensitive little flowers. I go after them equally,
Right.
She goes, so I was very disappointed she had to go after the Trump, like everything. And then she writes, I did enjoy the history of comedy, learning about the history of comedy and censorship, and I liked how she dealt with the Bill Cosby issue. But I felt disappointed, 1 star. Like, you obviously like the book, and you hate me because I hate Trump. So you then bring to, that's the power of, this social media and giving everyone a platform. You could be at a club, right? And you're doing your act, and someone tweets, oh, she did this joke about blah, blah, and it's completely out of context. And then, you have to defend yourself because some fucking asshole took something the wrong way. That's what we're doing. And it's ridiculous because humor and satire are such a part of the fabric of our country. I mean, that's what we do here.
Yeah.
You think of art forms that have, everything. Music, it came from here, and it came, Gregorian chants, and then, we have the Renaissance, we have all the, we have paintings, we have, all this kind of art. But I kind of think stand-up comedy is so unique to our country, getting up there and making people laugh and talking about the shit that so many other people aren't allowed to talk about. And now you're telling us what we can and cannot say? No.
Hallelujah. Thank God for you, though, because if you weren't going to say this, I'm scared that we were going to be in a worse situation. This is what I was thinking before COVID was happening. I said, it's funny because I had a gut feeling. I said, us comedians are in deep shit, especially the up and coming ones. Because
right.
The ones that are established like you, thank God you've already had the platform. You have the power. The ones that are up and coming, if we say one thing, we're done. And then this is people who have to feed their families based on comedy or podcasting. And I was just like, who's going to say something? And it's funny. Why do you think, though, when I feel like you get away with, because I think you're strong with your conviction, correct me if I'm wrong. Do you have to be, I guess, strong and consistent to enable to get away with being able to say what you want to say? Because some people don't get away with, some people do. You know what I mean? Like,
well, I think I'm old. So I'm 57, but I think I have years behind me. I talk about this caustic warmth in the book, which, Don Rickles had a caustic warmth. He would never make it as a comedian today because the words are not what they meant then, or didn't have the stigma. That's what people don't seem to understand, is that even 5 years ago, the words meant something different, 10 years ago, and yet we vilify people for things they've said in the past, and so, you look at him, everyone knew that he was the nicest guy in the room, that he was, and getting picked on by him, what was like an honor. It was like, you felt like, oh, I missed something. He didn't pick me out of the audience. And what he did was he sort of leveled everyone out. Here, you're that, we're all the same. That's it. This is what we are. How fucking stupid, and people can't understand that concept now, which is good. I mean, we've grown. Look, words take on different meanings as we evolve. And also when you think of comedians, people were like, oh, you're going to write about Louis? Yeah, of course. You think of all these comedians who have done things, there's a chapter called, there's a reason it's called an act. People cannot, for some reason, separate the comedian from the person who they are off stage.
Yeah.
And I think it's because it's such an intimate art form, and we do sort of bare our souls when we're on stage, which is also why I think so many people say shit to us after shows that you're like, oh my God, leave me the fuck alone.
I'm always scared I'm going to get things thrown at me. I was like, I gotta go.
And it's also like, I didn't like that joke, my son, and it's like, oh my God, it's not about you. It's not about you. I wasn't even thinking about you when I wrote the book.
That's what you say in the book. That's the main thing. It's not about you, which so sticks to me. I want to tell all my ex-boyfriends when they're like, you're not that funny. I want to be like, it's not about you.
And it's not about what you think. No one cares. You're the only one who fucking cares. But, Louis, let's just take Louis for example. Brilliant comic. Now, people know more about him. So his jokes sort of have a different meaning. Because we know more about, some sordid things about him. So you don't like him anymore, then you don't have to listen to him. You can turn him off, you can, but you don't go call the club and say, I'm never going to your club again because you had him. That's like, I talk about Coco Chanel, speaking of Chanel. Coco Chanel was embedded with the Nazis. She was a Nazi. I go to shul, I go to synagogue on Rosh Hashanah. Everyone's they're all wearing Chanel.
Oh my God, the irony. My Jewish parents call me Chanel. Go on.
And also, it's funny.
No wonder I'm so fucked up. I'm sorry.
No, but I'm just saying, she's dead, but her legacy lives on. She was a fucking and also it's funny because at the Emmys, Shira Haas, who was in for Unorthodox, I just fucking love her. She wrote on her Instagram, like, thank you to Chanel for the great, outfit and everything. I'm like, oh my God. But, why is it that you can't separate the person from the act? Like Bill Cosby. So I did talk about Bill Cosby, and he should never be. He's the only one I think, you know what? You fucking drugged and raped women. You don't deserve to get on any fucking stage. But it was funny because I was in a car getting driven somewhere right after he was convicted. And the driver was like, I don't understand. Like every guy. Why'd the women wait so long? I don't know. Let's see. Most powerful person in show business. I'm a clerk. Wonder how that's good. So fucking. And finally, the guy's like, well, I just can't see him doing it. And I was like, guess what? Dr. Huxtable didn't do it. Bill Cosby did it. Okay? It's like people could not separate that. And it's really too bad because that show, The Cosby Show, was such a fucking great show and represented people who were never represented on TV before. But it's like, come on, you're a female comic. We know all the guys who are fucking misogynist, motherfucker.
Oh yeah. It's like we know this too when we go into it. Some of my fellow female comics are like, oh, I can't believe you just got caught for sexual assault, like Chris D'Elia. He just got caught. I want to know your thoughts. Even Ellen DeGeneres now that, the investigation, it's like, oh my God, can't believe it. But we've hung out with these kind of people. It's not that we can't believe it. We're human. All of us have it inside of us.
Right.
Hell, I might have it inside of me, even though I think I'm a good girl. But maybe
no, you don't have it inside of you.
She's like, I already judged you. But, it's just they're all so shocked. But again, he's a man who's a comic who
it's not only like the shocking stuff. It's that.
Yeah, what do you think?
It's that I don't believe them. It's like, who would fucking do that? It's just, to me, it's so incredible. Okay, of course, every now and then there's a crazy, okay?
Right.
But no one's gonna fucking do it. Come on.
Yeah, it's not the majority.
In our position, But, look, there is so much misogyny in this business, but there's so much misogyny fucking everywhere. everywhere in this country. We are dealing with systemic racism now, and it's about fucking time. And after that, we're going to have to deal with the fucking, systemic misogyny in this country, because it's fucking bad.
Yeah, I want to talk about this too, because as a female comic, especially you were rising up the hardest times. It was old school. We didn't have social media when you were rising up. How did you cope with the misogyny and the patriarchy? Because I would have shaved my fucking head. Like, I would have just shaved it.
I was so tunnel vision of, I want to be a great comic. I want to be the best comic. And I feel like I had a little different experience because I'm a lesbian. So I never was flirting with any of the guys. Like, I was like, I don't give a fucking shit. I just wanted to be.
Power.
Yeah. And I was like, I just want to be a great comic. And they all were just like, of course I got, I had these guys coming up, I really like to do cunnilingus. And I was like, oh, that's great. Have fun. I just gave it right back to them. Because I didn't feel less than, and I didn't want to be a victim. I just wanted to be a good comic. And so, and I really honestly cannot understand how you think because I'm a woman that I can't do something. I didn't grow up that way. I never felt that way ever. It's funny because I grew up in a sort of conservadox synagogue, and I don't know how old I was when they finally let women on the bima, and they could, read that they had an egalitarian service once a month. I was like, what the fuck is that? I used to be like, Mom, what the fuck? But, and I kind of accepted it for what it was. But honestly, I gave it right. All right. This is very, I don't think it happens as much now as it did when I first started in the 80s, in the early 80s. First of all, I would call clubs to try to get booked. I can't tell you how many times I was, hi, my name's Judy Gold. I just did, Evening at the Improv and blah, blah, and I really like to work your club. This is before I had an agent. Oh, we had a woman here 4 months ago. She didn't do well, so we're not hiring women. These were common. Okay, so that was number one. Number two was they would never put more than one woman on a show. So Comedy U Grand in Soho on 55 Grand Street, every Thursday night, they had all women comedians. It was so funny the way they advertised it in the paper. It was all female comedians. They needed to write that fucking twice. Okay, so, and that is the only night of the week we all got to work together and see each other. And that's when I met that's how I hung out with all my female comedian friends. Because
that's what I wanted to know. That's so cool. Because
Thursday nights, it was like, oh my God, it was our only, because guys were always hanging out with each other. They would go on the road together. I was always the only woman. There was no internet. There was no cell phone. I would be stuck in fucking condos. This nice Jewish girl from New Jersey with these fucking assholes living in a room. They're all fucking the waitresses and living out of their car. And I'm like, I just want to get on stage. And I had one piece of luggage that was like a junk drawer because I'd bring books, I'd bring my clarinet, anything to fucking, and this happens, I think, I don't know, you can tell me, but every time I would get introduced, it'd be like, our next act is a woman, our next act is, and it so annoyed me. So when they did that, I would go, well, thank you so much. That was our MC. He's a man. He has a cock and balls. That was a man. That's what I would do. And that was the only way. And they would oftentimes, because I'm very tall, they would, I got to pick up the mic stand. And I was like, that was our MC. He's short. He is, I had to tell them to stop putting the mic stand. I said, I remember in my intro, would they be like, what do you want me to say? Don't say I'm tall. Don't say I'm a woman. Don't lift the mic stand up. It's like, do you say our next act is fat? Our next act is hairy? Our next act, no. Our next act has acne. What the fuck is wrong with you? But I feel like because of my generation, I was so used to this kind of behavior. And I was so used to being like, ugh, and I was bullied as a kid. And I didn't say anything, but in my head, I was like, you're a fucking, like, I had a whole dialogue in my head. And it came out. It came out when I was, on stage. But, until we stop with this idea that like 3 women on a show is a special event. It's her hysterical, ladies' night out, comedy and heels, whatever the fuck they do. And 3 guys on a show is a show.
Right.
It's ridiculous. Three people of color on a show is urban night. What the fuck does that mean?
That's true.
It's like, well, how much? But 3 white guys is a fucking show.
Yeah. It's like, why do I need a charity? I mean, I'm all for giving back charity, but why do I need a charity element?
Right. Uptown comedy, Latino comedy, blah, blah, blah.
Let's actually get into also why you became a comic. Because I don't know about you. Growing up as a Jewish girl from Long Island and a modern Orthodox family, my parents are like, comic, my Israeli dad, you want to be a comedian? You think you're funny? You're not funny. Nobody's coming to laugh at you. So I've kind of like I was raised.
Talk about misogyny with Israeli men. Oh my God.
It's like you can't do anything without being pessimistic. Oh, the world's going to crush down. So what was your experience growing up? Why did you want to be such a good comic so badly? Like, who were your inspirations?
Well, I knew I wanted to be a performer, and I didn't know in what capacity until someone actually dared me to do stand-up. And I was in college. I was 19, and I mean, that first laugh, there's nothing. There is nothing that compares. I had like an out-of-body experience, like, oh my God, it was like an epiphany. I was like, this is what I'm meant to do. Nothing made me feel that way, ever. No drug, nothing. And so it was, it was a platform. It was a way of performing. And, look, growing up, Joan Rivers was my idol. Always. And my parents loved her. And the thing about Joan was, if you look at her 5 decades as a stand-up, you saw where women stood in society by her material, and what she was allowed to talk about. And I watched her, and I was just like, oh my God, here's this loud, brash, smart Jewish woman telling it like it is. It was like, Toady Fields. I loved her. She was so physical and funny. Phyllis Diller, which a lot of people don't know this. She was 37 when she started doing stand-up. She left her family, her 5 kids, to make a living. And she had very funny looking legs. They were skinny legs. And she thought, I'm going to show my legs. That's, but she had a beautiful body, and she had big breasts, and she would wear a huge fucking tent so that no one was looking at her breasts and they were just looking at her bird-like legs, and she would do jokes about being flat-chested. And she had big, women had to get on stage and do a disclaimer. Jean Carroll, who was, if you don't know Jean Carroll, you should really look up Jean Carroll. She's probably the first real traditional female stand-up. Sophie Tucker. There were all these big mouth, Frances Faye, Moms Mabley. There were so many who really, broke the ceiling a little bit, as much as they could. But they all basically got on stage, and you don't see this with men, and would sort of do a disclaimer like, hi, I know I'm a piece of shit, and I should be at home cooking for my husband. Okay, here's my material. And that's the way it was. And it still is to a certain extent. A comic will get on stage, and, I think it is our job to talk about the elephant in the room. And I remember when I would get on stage, and I was, I'm 6'2" now, but I was 6'3". I had a knee replacement. And I had really short hair, and I would talk about everyone thought I was a transvestite. That was the term we used then, motherfuckers.
Right.
And you know, because I knew it was what they were thinking, and I just wanted to get it the fuck out of the way. But women had to do that. But, you know, they had to sort of, you know, stand their ground and say, I know, can you believe I'm doing this? I'm such an asshole. Here's my material, you know. And it's so interesting to me that Johnny Carson, like white bread, middle of America, found Joan Rivers so fucking hysterical, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, they were complete opposites. He did treat her like shit and was a fucking asshole to her. But, you know, you talked about Ellen. You talked about, I mean, it's so funny with this Ellen stuff because, I mean, I worked with Ellen. She was very nice. And I, of course, had heard, you know, we're in a small community. We all hear everything. I had heard about Bill Cosby. I'd heard about Lou. I mean, I heard everything about everyone. But, you know, you're just like, oh, is it true? Is it? And there's always, where there's smoke, there's fire. But we don't know the extent of it. But, you know, David Letterman wouldn't let anyone look him in the eye.
I've had many bosses. I'm just laughing because I have many bosses like that. But yeah.
You know, I don't know. I think that, you know, and Ellen addressed it yesterday in her monologue about, you know, having this be kind. You know, it's hard to say be kind and then, you know, you're under a microscope. But I definitely think there's a double standard with women.
Right.
I don't know what went on her show specifically. I did work for Telepictures too when I worked with Rosie. But I don't know, I was a writer and a producer and I'm not in that. It's a very cutthroat. This executive, they can't wait to get jobs on the next show. It wasn't something I was good at. I was good at being creative, and I was great on the Rosie show because I knew Rosie so well and I knew her voice. So creating stuff for her voice was easy for me because I got her sense of humor and I got her sense of who she is and, you know, what made her laugh and what made her excited. But it's a corporate job, and you think about how cutthroat stand-up is, like it's beyond it. I can't, and I hate that part of the business.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say to you. Like, I mean, I'm sure you can attest to this. A lot of us as writers, producers, or comedians or talent, we don't see what the executives behind the scenes are doing because they're so good at brushing it under the table. It's like kind of you know, I hate to say it, but it's like the Jeffrey Epsteins. They're like the representations of wiping it under the rug. So even Ellen, I don't blame because she might not even know half the shit that's going on behind her show, even though she should know. But it's impossible.
But it's also like,
it's impossible.
I know you could look at Bernie Madoff. Like, he's doing all this shit behind, like no one, people are like, I didn't know. I don't know. It's just weird because when you are, it's that fine line. There are so many people who are great at marketing and business who are comedians. Like Jim Gaffigan.
Yeah.
Was he studied marketing, and you can fucking tell. He took this, and his wife, Jeannie, is so much a huge part of his success and his brand. But, you know, look at him. He couldn't take it anymore. He fucking just came out against Trump and was like, I don't fucking care anymore because I can't hold this in. But, you know, here's someone with a great business mind. And there are comics who have great... Is that Elisa doing the dishes? Dog? Yeah,
it's just as bad. It's my Israeli dad with the dog.
I don't care.
I told you to take him out. Sorry, okay, go ahead.
But it's like... I feel like I lack those executive function skills because I'm so comic brain that sometimes I can't even believe, I can't believe that person screwed me over. Like, how did I not see that? As much as I'm negative, loud, like, kill me now, I do think people are good. Like, I'm like, because I would never behave like that. So I can't believe it's like so weird.
So shocking. Well, that's because I was going to ask you, like, on this like we talked about these influencers becoming comics, because I got to tell you, a lot of them are actually the ones who bullied me behind the scenes at stand-up comedy clubs, being like, well, you haven't done stand-up for like 10 years. Meanwhile, I've done open mics for years, which, by the way, open mic,
you know what?
I want to know your thoughts on like that transition of who can tell someone what they can be and not be, right?
No one. Okay, here's the deal.
Yeah, please break it down. And you're an actress too. Talk about, because you've been from the acting side, you've been from the producing side, you've been from the stand-up side.
I mean, stand-up is my favorite. It is who I am. We have the utmost control. When I first did stand-up, I did a talent show at Rutgers where I went to college, which is what got me. And it was Bill Sheft, who was the head writer for Letterman, Larry Amoros, who is one of the most brilliant writers ever, writes for everyone, wrote for Joan, writes for Barry Manilow. Like, he is the go-to guy for anything. Hilarious. And he was the MC. And Adrienne Tolsch, God rest her soul, was, they did this thing called Campus Comedy, and they did a contest. And I won the contest, and I got to perform with them at Rutgers. And Adrienne Tolsch was the MC at Catch a Rising Star on Monday nights, and that was when all the new talent, you would hang out to get on. And these shows went till 3, 4 in the morning. Like, you don't seem to understand. The show would start at 8 or 9 and would go till 3 in the morning. Like, you didn't get home till 4 or 5 in the morning. And the MC at that time in the early 80s was the star of the show, which is the way it should be. It is the most important part of the show. But, you know, Belzer was an MC, and it was like, you would go, who's MCing tonight? And it was like their show, you know?
Right.
And I remember Adrienne giving me this one bit of advice. She said to me, I don't know if I was nervous or, oh, maybe I shouldn't do it. You know, people will always tell you what you should and should not. And you gotta say, fuck you. She said to me, you earned this time on stage, and it's yours to do what you want to do with it. It is your time. It is not their time. And you do what you, and that has stuck with me, that I worked hard enough to be given this 10 minutes, this 12 minutes, this 8 minutes, this 4 minutes, this 6 minutes. Don't you fucking tell me what to do. Don't tell me who to be. Because unless you're true to yourself, I mean, I can't sleep. But I did. Look, people were like, you're too Jewish. Don't talk about being gay. And I was like, okay. And then finally when I was like, fuck you, that's what sort of set me free. No.
I love that. That's amazing. That's inspiring, especially to artists, up and coming artists like us, because yeah, you need that freedom. You can't be stuck in order to create.
No one can tell you who you are except for you. And the only way to get better at doing stand-up is to do stand-up and to get up there and feel comfortable enough so the audience trusts you and you trust yourself. And, you know, take risks. And don't have anyone ever they told me to dye my hair blonde and straighten it. And I was like, okay. And it really wasn't until I just did 25 Questions for a Jewish Mother, which was an off-Broadway show I had written. It took several years. I wrote it with Kate Moira Ryan, and that was a huge success. And that was the beginning of me being who the fuck I am. You know, when people tell you what you shouldn't be and what you shouldn't do, it's all about them. It's all about their feelings and how they, if I could go back and follow my gut on all the times I didn't follow my gut, I would be in a different position. But, you have to trust your gut. And you also have to realize that it's so personal. And everyone, it's a fucking marathon. I want to be doing stand-up when I'm 82, like Joan was, and she was never more relevant than when she died at 82. I get rejected all the time. You don't fit the algorithm. You're too old. You're not getting a Netflix won't give me a special. I'm too old. Men my age are not too old, but women. My age. You'll see when you're
Damn, you
over
need.
50.
I would. Your Netflix special would fucking rock.
I haven't done a special since.
You know why? Because they'll push all the men out of the water, so they're scared. Seriously.
Well, what it is that I get on stage wherever I still wherever I can get on stage, and I do my work, and it's really about doing the work and enjoying the work, and you cannot compare yourself to anyone else. No one has your jokes. No one has your persona. There's so much luck involved in this, and you have to just realize, okay, that person got lucky. Maybe they're not as, I know that, look, I'm confident enough in my material, and I'm also insecure in my material that makes me want to be better and better. You know, if I didn't have that, I wouldn't want to be, keep doing it. And I know people who are way more successful on paper than I am, who know that I've worked harder than them, that but it doesn't matter. It is what it is. I like being respected. I'd like to have more money. I'd like to be on a fucking regular, character on a really great TV show. I mean, there's so much I would like to do, but it keeps me dreaming,
Right.
Keeps me
Without
wanting
dreams,
more stuff. Yeah.
What do we have?
And as much as you could say we're all negative, we wouldn't continue to do this if we didn't think there was something good at the end of the tunnel. Like, as much as I'm like, oh, fuck this, and I don't want to, I still get on stage. I still know that, tomorrow I could get a phone call that I'm, someone wants to hire you for blah, blah, blah. That's what the beauty and the curse of this business is. Your life can change in an hour.
I know. My whole thing is like every day I've been seeing this guy, and my mom also, especially, I say to them, they're like, no, you can't do that. It's not that funny, or you can't say this. I go, yes, I can. Judy Gold told me I can.
You can. You can
and
say
it bothers
whatever
them. They're like, Judy Gold, huh? Judy Gold?
Yeah.
I said, yeah, motherfucker. Judy Gold told me I can, okay?
You can. And you can say whatever the fuck you want. Just make it funny. Make it funny.
Right.
Make it funny. And you know what? Take risks. Stop being fearful. Stop having other people's voices in your heads telling you what is right and wrong. Fuck you.
Right, because you're a big advocate of mental health, which I want to touch quickly before we let you go. But mental health is a big part of this podcast. I want people to, while they're listening, to understand that they're always asking me and my guests, how do you guys cope with mental health?
I do that on mine too.
What's something that you do that you get through? Because it seems like you really have a good head on your shoulders.
Oh, please. I have days. I have days where my goal is to just get through the fucking day. I have really bad ADHD. I've had it since I'm a kid, and it wasn't diagnosed. And God knows what I would have done with my life had it been diagnosed. But I have an adult ADHD, which is trying for my partner, Elisa, who puts the fucking dishes away while I'm... so I have that, so I have to deal with that. And I've also explained that to my kids, when they're like, why are we always late? And why is everything so chaotic? And I'm like, I'm having a bad, I'm very open. So for my mental health, I also have had a very bad clinical depression in 2010, a nervous breakdown-ish, sort of like couldn't even talk. I have terrible anxiety. It's really hard for me to get out of bed in the morning. But I have gone through a lot of therapy. I've gone through cognitive behavioral therapy, has given me so many fucking tools. Like when I get up in the morning in a panic, I have diurnal depression, so I feel it during the day, and at night when the sun goes down, it's lifted. A lot of people have nocturnal depression, like William Stryon, who wrote about his depression. That was nocturnal. But, and I realized when I went through this horrible depression that I've always had a hard time when the sun is up, when it's during the day. I've always, I remember as a kid, and at nighttime I'd be like, oh, okay, which is probably why I'm a night person, an entertainer. Okay, so what do? I take antidepressants. I exercise, very important. I play the piano. Music is really important to me. Meditation. And, I use the tools that I've learned, but it's taken me this long to not beat myself up and be like, you know what? You know, because it's so easy to be like, oh, I'm so anxious. Fuck, why am I so fucking, you know, like, I wish I wasn't anxious. And to accept it and just say, you know what? It's just like diabetes. It's like every fucking other thing. It's like, okay, all right, I'm having an episode. And I reach out to people. That's the other thing I do, and that a lot of people don't do. Like, I will call, like, Gary Goldman. I'll say, Gary, having a bad day, because I know he gets it. And I tell people to text me or call me. You know, I also think the phone is bad, and the news 24 hours a day is bad. So there's so many times I've realized now that I'm really anxious, and I realize, oh my God, I looked at my phone all fucking day. And so I think
that's what it is. Yeah.
Yeah. It's just being aware and not punishing yourself and accepting yourself for who you are. And, you know, go outside, go for a walk, get out of your head, listen to music, do something. But it is an everyday struggle, keeping a healthy emotional balance. And I am really jealous of people who don't have mental health issues. I mean, I think everyone does have mental health issues. I think it would be the only way to not have mental health. I think the only way to truly be happy is just to be really dumb.
I agree. Amen. I said that the other day. I said, when you're really smart, right? You're in your own head. So it's hard, right? It's easier to get lost and caught up and depressed. But when you're really dumb, you have nothing to think about.
I know. I mean, I have friends. I remember one of my friends had a boyfriend who would get up in the morning and have coffee and look through magazines for a few hours and read. And then he'd go to the gym. And then he had like a server job. And then he'd come home, repeat. And I was like, I want to be okay just sitting on a couch reading. But I'm like, you should be doing something. You should be learning something. What are you doing with your time? You know, it's like, fucking shut up.
Like I always call it my Jewish neurosis, because I got it from my mom. You got to be doing something. Talking about that with mental health, has it ever affected your creative process, or has it helped your?
Oh, yes. When I was depressed, it was really hard. It was very bad. I couldn't write any new jokes. You know, you gotta just let it take its course sometimes. You can't fight it sometimes. You have to just let it take its course. And I remember I was performing. I could only perform at night. I couldn't talk all day. And it was weird. I was sort of disconnected. But of course, it definitely affects, you know, your process. But just do something creative. Like, if you just go, okay, I'm going to put on some, you know, Beethoven orchestral piece and listen to the third violin. That's what I'll do to just get my, you know, you gotta just, you gotta use the coping mechanisms that you have, and you have to realize, and you can't, that's the key, is not, you know, just beating yourself up about it, because you have no control over it.
Right. That's what I love about you when you do your stand-up. Like, you don't really care if people are laughing or not. I just
can't. Sometimes I can't. I'm like, are you, like, honestly?
Like, do you get scared when they don't laugh? Do you get scared?
I just go, I can't, like, I just say what's on my, because sometimes I'm like, you fucking kidding me? That is so funny. Like, there's something wrong with you. Like, I just, you know.
Right. And that probably also makes people laugh when you
right.
Not the punchline, but what you say after that.
Right.
What I've experienced.
Because it's how I'm feeling, you know.
Do you feel that comedians usually will have a good set and a bad set? That doesn't mean that they're funny or
Absolutely.
successful?
Absolutely. And also, you know, I'm at the point where I'm fearless. I've heard it all. Anything you say bad about me, I've heard worse. I don't care anymore. No one can tell me, you know, fuck you. Which is what you don't have when you're you're younger, you know.
Right.
But
trust me, if I had you, I would be like, fuck you to everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, there are so many comics who are like, it's never the audience. Sometimes it's the audience. Sometimes it's too cold. Sometimes these people got in a fight with the wait person. Sometimes they had a fight on the way here. Sometimes it's too hot. Sometimes the service sucks. Sometimes there was I write about this in the book. A shitty comic going on before you is it ruins it for everyone, when you don't do your work. So you can be of the mindset, oh, they didn't laugh. I must suck. Yeah, sometimes it's your fault. Sometimes I get up there and I'm so angry and I'm like, oh my God, I have to calm down. You got to check yourself every now and then. But it is, it's just about doing the work. I mean, think about where we are now. There are comedians, who are doing shows in a park. I did a show at a drive.
To shut it down now.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, fuck him.
Yeah, I know.
I've been doing, I did the show at the movie theater, the drive-in movie theater in Queens. You see how much we need to do our art in order to be great at our art, that we will do it anywhere. I mean, if one thing about this fucking pandemic, it's that it hasn't stopped us. And we're such a great community. I have to say, yes, it feels split sometimes, but we are such a close-knit, caring, we talk to each other differently than we talk to other people. We get each other. It's just an amazing, I feel a part of something so much greater than us,
Yeah. Do you think we could look forward to a Judy Gold tour? Whether it's,
No one books me. I'm telling you. Yeah, I mean, I have to book myself and I go into cabarets and maybe small theaters. But look, if you want to, people are like, oh, you have such a great career. All those clubs, the improvs, the healing, they won't book me. And I don't care. That's the thing. It's like I used to want to be like, what am I going to do? I can sit here and be like, I can't believe they won't book me. Or I can just go work at a theater or work in a cabaret or work where they want me, I kind of, in a way, I like it because I don't like doing Wednesday through Sunday. I don't want to do that anymore. I want to do one night, maybe 2 nights, sign my books and leave, Right. So the business model has changed too. But yeah, you can ask my manager. It's been years before I don't have I have people who book me, but I'm not there's these people, I'm with Paradigm, I'm with APA, Nope. It's never been like that for me, ever. I have made my own path. I'm probably the only comic from the 80s or 90s who didn't get a development deal. They all got holding deals.
I'm shocked because you're so talented and you would be graded in your own series. And that's what's so weird to me, because it's such a given. It's so.
Yeah, you see it.
I see it.
Right.
Maybe you should hire me instead of them so I can fucking get.
But I can go through every year of my career and what could have brought me down. And it's like, you know what? Fuck you. I'll figure it out.
Right. And also, but you have had the career where I think you are teaching us as comics too. Don't only rely on your stand-up, write a book, host a podcast. That's what I like about
please.
You.
You have to reinvent yourself all the time. You have to. You can't be Billy Joel who goes around and goes on tour and does the same song. Yeah, he's lucky. I mean, yes, and he's really talented and he puts on a great show. But it is all about reinventing yourself, and times change, and you have to, but I want to do things. I want to host. I want to be on Broadway. I want to do, and you know what? If you're in a fucking lull, take a class, take an acting class, take a writing class, take a class on how to fucking cook, do something. Everything will give you material.
I love that. That's super inspiring. Seriously. So Chanel in the City, what is your favorite place in New York City when you're here, when you like to just visit, to to kind of escape from that you just love?
Oh, that's a good one. To escape?
To like anything, or restaurants that you love to go to eat.
You know, here's my favorite things about New York. Okay. When the kids were little, we used to go to Central Park with our baseball gloves and we would I took them out all the time, but we would just start a softball game in the middle of the park with like whoever wanted to play. It was so fun. We'd be like, we had a tree. There's so many, yeah. So that I love. I used to take the kids to all the basketball courts by the projects to teach them how to play basketball, street ball, because I thought I want them to learn how to be in this fucking world. And my son plays basketball for Tulane now.
That's really good.
Yeah, but just the play. I love the theater. I bike everywhere. I love knowing everyone in my neighborhood. I love my restaurants that I always go to. I love my mail person. I mean, I just love New York because I love my building. I love that you're in the biggest city in the world, and yet I know everyone in my fucking neighborhood. I love my synagogue. I love it, it's just the greatest place. And if you're weird, there's someone weirder. And if you're strange, there's another strange person you can be friends with. And I just remember when my kids were growing up, and I was like, don't ever bully anyone. Is there a tall girl in your class? I used to be like, is anyone picking on this if someone was fatter? And finally, Henry said to me, Mommy, no one gets picked on. Like, that's not what people do here. Like, it was, they'd come home and be like, oh, there's a trans kid in our class. I'm like, uh-huh. Yeah, I just want to let you know. Like, they don't care.
Right. Yeah.
And I just love that. I love Lincoln Center.
Oh, me too. I love it.
Just sitting there and just seeing these people carrying their instruments and, Lincoln Center to me is just, and every time I drive by there, I like pinch myself, like the Chagalls and just the culture. And I don't know, New York City is the greatest city in the world. And fucking de Blasio sucks.
I know. And let me add that. Anything else you want to share with our audience that's up and coming for you that we can look forward to?
Well, I would love for you to get my book. The audiobook was featured in the New York Times book review. So,
and it's amazing.
People love the audiobook. And I'm really proud of it. I don't know. Please vote. Please vote that motherfucker out. Please. Does your father like Trump because of Israel?
It's yes and no, and that's why we have a lot of conflict, lots of conflict. I was like, don't tell me who to motherfucking vote for, or I swear to God, I will.
His behavior.
I don't agree with his behavior, so that's why me and my dad doesn't either. But I think Israel is a big part of.
Okay, well then he should go move back there. Okay.
I agree. You know what? Maybe he should adopt. Hopefully one day you can adopt.
Yeah.
Because I got to get the fuck out.
Yeah.
Of here. But I was going to ask you, the LGBT community, though, being a Jew and being part of the LGBT community, has, anything you want to say out there too to some, people?
Well, if you if you think that you can't be Jewish and be gay, you're wrong. If you think you can't have a family, have a Jewish family, and be a gay you're wrong. My kids grew up having Shabbat every Friday night. I am so proud of I love being a Jew, and I love the Tikkun Olam part of it, the healing of the world and the community service and the giving back. That's what I really love. I don't believe every friggin' thing in the Bible, but the teachings and the Talmud, there's just so many good things about it. Also, if you feel like, you can't criticize Israel, and that makes you an anti-Semite. If you're a Jew who criticizes Israel, then there's I'm an American and I criticize America, if you can't get past that, Israel has contributed an incredible amount to the world. I mean, there are so many people who hate, and yes, Israel is not perfect. They're not perfect. But what country is perfect? And if you hate Israel so much and you hate Jews, then you should live in the world without all the contributions that they have made. So you can throw out your cell phones, forget your cancer treatment, your heart transplants, your clean water, everything. If you hate us so much, then, live without the contribution. If you hate black people so much, live without the contributions, people of color have made to this world. If you hate gays, let's see how your fucking world ends up, Mr. White, boring male. But yeah, I wish that people knew more about Israel before they criticized Israel, because yes, there are occupied terror. Yes, there's shit that's going on there, but there's also really good shit that goes on there. There's a gay pride parade. Women are equal. It's a democracy, sometimes a more functioning democracy than we have here. But that worries me, that the anti-Semitism, that anti-Israel sentiment is caught up with anti-Semitism. I don't know. I feel like people should go visit Israel, don't you think?
I do. To
would
really
change your
experience
opinion.
it. Yeah, you can only go visit and really have an opinion about it instead
Right. It's like,
of what you hear, right?
look what we do in this country.
Yeah.
There's kids in cages.
It
There's
makes
people
me
without
so
clean
sad.
water. There's homeless people laying in the street. Veteran. I mean, it's awful.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I just feel like I'm a member of these communities and I'm proud. And, you can't have anyone dictate to you who you are or who you can be or it's lazy. If you let a book or a clergy person tell you who you are, there's a problem there.
Yeah, we're all screwed.
Yeah.
Do you see this, because of the pandemic, where do you see comedy heading?
I mean, I think that we're kind of figuring it out online, even though it's not fun at all, because the rhythm is off. It's like, wait, did you? Okay, yeah, because you never know when to start your next joke, because there's a delay. I don't know. I mean, I feel like we're going to be the last to open, because we are an open mouth, talking, laughing and it's an intimate. I don't know. I have no idea. Look at these late night shows without an audience. It's kind of like, now you realize how important the audience is.
Exactly. We have to pray for a better tomorrow, because without we got to save our stages. Without that, I don't know.
Right. Theater is see what's happening, how irritable and horrible and sad people are feeling because there's no theater, and it's horrible.
Exactly.
RBG was a big patron of the arts. The arts can change the world.
I know, and may she rest in peace. Oh my God, that was so heartbreaking too.
Yeah.
So where can everybody follow you? Where can everybody get your book? Thank you so much.
Okay.
This has been amazing.
I know, and we did like double.
I know. I'm sorry. I'm like taking her. I was like, I need you.
I don't care.
I know. I'm so sorry. Thank you for your time.
Anytime. So the book you can get anywhere you buy books. Yes, I can say that when they come for the comedians, we're all in trouble. On my website, judygold.com, there's links. You can get them at indie bookstores, Amazon, anywhere. Everyone loves the audiobook, just lower the volume. I don't know. My podcast, Kill Me Now. My Twitter and Instagram is at Judy Gold, JEWDYGOLD.
I love it. You have some really funny tweets.
Thank you. And I don't know. Hi, it's Judy Gold. Tune in to my interview with Chanel Omari on Chanel in the City, because it's really fucking great.